and welcome to Saturday afternoon. Things are probably going to slow down a bit on the van over the next little while. You may have noticed, some of you may have noticed that over behind me there is a for sale sign on the front of our property. The house is actually sold and we're moving shortly, so that's going to impact the ability to work on the van over the next month or so. There's lots of moving things to do, but today I am battling weather again. I've got a couple more holes to put in the roof of the van, one for the fan light unit for the bathroom and another for bringing the wires in from the solar. So I'm going to work on that. I'm going to get myself set up, and then as weather allows this afternoon, I'm going to cut the holes and prime them, probably cover them up with plastic until the paint goes off and I can actually install the things that I need to install. That's probably all I'm going to do today. This is the top part of the fan light unit that's going in the bathroom, and so I need to mount this on the roof. This will sit underneath the solar panels, and so I need to locate this accurately and cut it out from above because of where it's going. You can see above my head here I've got marked out on the ceiling where this needs to sit. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to drill 3 holes up from underneath on the edge, and then I can sit this on the top outside, draw around it and cut that out. I don't have a hole saw that's big enough to do that. I'm not going to buy a hole saw for one 120mm hole, and so I'm cutting it with the jigsaw. Sun's just come out, so timing's good. I'm going to get stuck in with that. The other thing that I need to put in is this cable entry gland, which will go up there where you can see there's some writing on the roof. That's to bring the solar panel cables in. So this gets glued down to the roof, and a couple of gland nuts go in those holes there, and the cables pass through the gland nuts. So I'm going to get those 2 things done today. Then I think I'm finished making holes in the roof, apart from mounting the actual rails that the solar panels will go on. So 3 small holes, that'll give me an accurate location for where to put it from on the top, and 1 bigger hole that I can get the jigsaw through. So I've just been taking another look at where the solar entry is going to be. I've decided to move it from here to here. That's pretty much the centre of where the solar panels are going to be. There'll be 2 solar panels butt joined there. So if I bring them here, I think that's going to work best with my cable lengths. And just in that little bit of time, now it's started to rain again. It's pretty much what I've got to work with at the moment. It's rain and more rain. So I'll get some holes drilled, and then I think I probably just need to put a bit of tape over the top until the weather settles again. I'm going to throw some tape over the top. Tape some bags under here to catch the filings when I'm cutting it out, and then I'm going to wait for the weather. I'm not a big fan of single-use plastic bags, but occasionally they come in handy. This, of course, is about catching metal filings, not about catching rain. There we go, that should do the job. I think quite possibly the worst design element of the Iveco is its roof, with all these funny shapes and areas where water can get trapped. It's a terrible design. I don't know what Iveco were thinking. Time for a new blade. Bag's done its job. Fan's got a bug screen in the top there. I'm racing showers again, but it's not quite so ominous as it was last weekend. But let's get these things on and sealed. There we go, and from the inside all sealed up. I've trailed off the sealer from the inside too. It's the entry point for the cables. It's only small jobs, but small jobs that need to be done. Over the next little while I'll just be chipping away at little jobs and tackle mounting the solar panels at some point in the next couple of weeks, hopefully. This evening I'm going to work on further mocking up the solar panel install. I've decided that I more than likely will do the tilting. What I'm going to do this evening is get started on setting it up further, attaching the hinges so that I can test and see what kind of force it requires for the linear actuators to actually tilt the panels. From that I will try and decide whether I think it's a good idea or whether I'm being too ambitious. In the end I'm going to mount the aluminium, so I've got the long side on top of the long side rather than the short side like I had it earlier. That gives me advantage in terms of a better angle for the linear actuator to push, but it also means that I can use a slightly longer linear actuator, get a bigger angle that the solar panels will tilt to without it touching the edge of the roof as the overhanging edge of the solar panel comes down. So that's my plan. So I'll set the hinges up. The reason for there being a bit of a gap is that these hinges don't have a flat side. I'm going to go 10mm from the end. Great thing with these step drills is you know what size hole you're drilling down to. It's the size I want, and it cleans up the edge of the hole. And I'll just give it a buzz the other way to clean up the other side. In true Bunnings fashion, they didn't have enough of the length of fasteners that I wanted, so I had to get some of the length I wanted and some of the next length. Life, I suppose. For the moment, I'm just dry fitting these. I will later come back and add lock nuts or thread lock or something like that. I haven't decided which yet. Just to do the job to allow me to test and make sure that I'm happy with how it's all going to work. Right, well that's half of one done. Let's carry on and do the rest. Now, some of you may wish to correctly point out to me that using stainless hinges and fasteners with aluminium could be a cause, or would be a cause, for galvanic corrosion, and you're quite right. So what I've done to counter that, the biggest issue is that aluminium acts as an anode and stainless as a cathode. And so if you have a big area of stainless contacting aluminium, then you'll get galvanic corrosion. If it's a small area of stainless contacting a large area of aluminium, it's not such a big issue. But anyway, I've just designed and 3D printed some spacers, some shims to go in between the hinge and the aluminium angle, so they will get bolted in there. And I've also created some washers to go between the stainless washer and the aluminium on the other side, so that should sort that out. G'day, it's Friday evening, got some time to work on the van this evening. In the videos that you've just seen, I've gotten the rails for the mount connected with the hinges, added the shims and the Loctite on the fasteners, and so the next thing I'm going to do is attach a couple of solar panels to this rail and just see what it's like lifting it, tilting it as if I had actuators on it. Just thought I'd show you what I'm doing here. So I found the center of the panel, which is that mark there, and then I've measured off half the distance that will be the distance between the rails. So that's that mark there. It gives me the edge of the rail from the edge of the panel. And just make sure that I align all the panels with that same distance from the edge on the rail and mount them to get a consistent distance. I know the distance apart that the rails will be, and then that helps me to just make sure I get everything correct. Now I'm just going to take a couple of offcuts from my rails and kind of set it up and make sure I'm getting it right before I drill any holes. Okay, I'm already getting it wrong. Because that mark is actually to the other side of the upstand. So I need to remove 3 millimeters from that. So from the center, the rails will be 1200 mil to the outside edge where they mount, which means that I actually need 597. Top rail will essentially go there. And if I do the same thing on the other side, I can check to make sure the distance between is correct. It's off by 2 millimeters. Probably not really a big deal. So that's given me marks to align to when I'm setting up to drill the panels to fit onto the rails. So now I can pre-drill holes in the driver's side rail, ready to accept the panels. So I'm going to set up where I want to drill the holes in the rail, and I'll find my pencil. Did you see what I did with my pencil? Here it is. The panels are 700 millimeters wide. So this mark that I've just made is center of the hole. I'm coming in 22.5 millimeters from the edge of the panel, which mimics the manufacturer's hole spacing. So there's 700. starting with a small drill bit because it's easier to make sure the hole stays where I want it. Make sure I put the panel on the right way around. Put the cabling at this end, at the hinged end. Line it up with my marks. Almost the right place. I'm just going to put a clamp on to stop it so it pivots on this point while I get the other edge lined up. Alright, that's exactly where I want it. So I'm just going to tuck a piece of wood up in the top there, so when I'm drilling up into the bottom of the panel frame, I don't accidentally come up and damage the back of the panel. This piece here should do the trick. So I would have liked to have this angle go the other way. I think it would look nicer from on the ground, but it would make it very difficult to fasten the panels on when it's up on the roof. Alright. Check this measurement again. Gives it the big square. Alright, happy with that. Well, disappointingly, I think I have just decided to abandon the idea of tilting solar panels. So let me show you why. I've set up this trial, so I've got the panels mounted, 2 panels mounted on the frame with the hinges, as was the plan. And I've just set up a piece of timber acting on what would have been the pivot point for the linear actuators back down to where it would be pushing from back down here, and then tried pushing on the 2 panels to see what kind of force it requires to lift the panels and how that all works on the rest of the system. And although I think the linear actuator would lift the panels, I'm concerned about the stress that that would put on the panels, and I'm also concerned about the stress that it would put on the mounting on just all the hardware and hinges and all of that sort of thing. The way that it's working is at the beginning, where it's lifting the panels, beginning to lift the panels. It's just putting so much lateral force coming this way, I knew that was going to be the case. But in mocking it up and trying it, I'm just not confident that it's a good long-term solution. It would probably work, I think, for the short term, but I think that the negative impacts make it not worth doing it. So now I'm going to backtrack a bit and just hard mount the panels and call it a day. Unless I decide to use gas struts. So that's my sad and sorry tale for the evening. The bright side though is it does mean I'll be able to get the panels mounted on the roof more quickly and progress with other things sooner. So that's good. That's going to be it for episode 8, the tilting solar panel fail episode. I'm going to regroup and have ideas of how I'm going to mount the panels now that I've given up on linear actuators, and you'll have to wait and see what that is on the next one. Join me on episode 9. Like, comment, subscribe, click the bell icon so you get notified when new videos come out, and we'll see you on the next one. Thanks for watching. Bye.